Greetings and thank you so much for tuning in to the Barbara Dean Franklin Show, Real Talk, Real People. I am your host, Barbara Dean Franklin, and today I have the pleasure of sitting with my friend Cheryl P. Johnson, CEO of COTS. How are you doing today?
I am great, Barbara. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to come in and talk to me. Today I want to talk about COTS, the temporary coalition of temporary shelters. I want to kind of talk about homelessness, what it looked like when you first started or when COTS first opened their doors. And COTS opened their doors like how many years ago?
It was over 30 years, so 1982.
Wow.
That's when we first started.
And in 1982, Cheryl, what did homelessness look like?
So in the city, particularly in the city of Detroit, which I think reflects the nation, you saw majority single men who had issues with alcohol, maybe some drugs, but generally alcohol was the issue out on the streets. So when COTS came together, it was a group of ministers, people in the community, other organizations who really saw this as a growing issue and problem in the city of Detroit. And how do we combat it so that we care for the human being? So COTS started with, I believe it was 22, maybe 44 beds over at the St. Peter's Episcopal Church, right across from the old Tiger Stadium, in the basement there. And as time went on, that the face of the homeless changed drastically to what you see today.
And that's where I want to go, because today we have homelessness, and you think about like, what does homelessness really look like? Because you have the working homeless.
That's right. So many people are working. Many have jobs that what we call making livable wages. So today, in our state, and so some people, ask the question like, oh, you got plenty of housing in Detroit, and that is not true. You don't have affordable housing. So what has continued to happen, and we see this now at COTS, is this growing number of families that are coming in. So this could be mom, dad, children, or single mom in many cases, and that unfortunately is what's happening across the country.
And with, as I listen to you and we talk about the dynamics of families today, because now too we have a lot of grandparents that are raising children, that are falling on really hard times, and so you have temporary homelessness, so if they're displaced by, then you have those that are just in and out of homelessness. They've been
chronic.
Yes. And so what I think about, and I thank God for COTS and all the things that you do, and hopefully we'll get a chance to hit on some of it, because it's just not the homeless that you address. You're doing so many other things as well. But as our government, are we doing enough to really help the people who are affected?
So everybody, it's so easy to point the finger like this. Well, you're not doing enough. You should be doing this. And I'm going to tell you, I speak very candidly about it. I always point to the church, to be honest with you. I say in this day and age, sometimes we ought to be ashamed as Christian folks, because in our world, Christ should be the head, the leader, right? Definitely. And our nation should reflect that. So as we look at our society, I mean, the reflection of Christ is very dim. So I always go back, and I'm not ashamed to say that. Well, churches, what are we doing as Christian folk here?
And you know what? That is a good thing, because I'm a deacon in my church, but I do most of the work outside of my church, you understand? I'm helping people. And, so that title means nothing to me, because I'm out spreading the good news and helping and loving on people and encouraging them. And when you talk about it, there's a church almost on every corner.
Four on every corner.
Okay, and you are so right, because if there's nothing else, that we open up the doors and put a cot in.
That's right.
You know, because that's how we were raised. You know, back in the day when I was coming up, we all supported and took care of one another. And that's what I talk about each and every week on this show. It's about supporting one another, loving one another. You know, being there for each other. But how do we get back to that? I mean, how do you know, when the preachers are up there and they're preaching every Sunday, and I know my pastor gonna have something to say. You know, but you know, as we are, you know, as we're talking every Sunday, when we come in there and we're preaching to the people that are sick, and we're trying to encourage them, and we're giving them the word, and we're telling them what thus saith the Lord, what are we really doing? Because we can't, number one, can't go out into the community until we help the house.
And you're right about that. When you were talking, it made me think, in Acts, it talks about the people had everything in common. And here's why they had everything in common. It was because they saw a need. And if I had a resource and you had a need, so it's not okay to sit in church. And this is the case where we actually sit in church and the person next to you is hungry, or this person over here has another need. And prayer is good. I believe it is a key to the kingdom. I got that. However, some people, it's beyond the prayer. It's what do you do about that? And so that's our responsibility. And I think the church has really fallen asleep.
And I'm going to totally agree with you on that. And I truly wish that, you know, as a community, especially a community of faith, that we would sit together and not worry about which one starts the program that is most effective, but we all come together as a community and start a program that will address the needs of the people, that will help somebody today. I mean, we need to do this right now. You know, now we need to do it. So let's go back and talk about COTS, because COTS, you're down at 26 Peterborough. Is that where you do?
26 Peterborough. We moved from St. Peter's Episcopal, and there was the old Imperial Arms Hotel. Has a lot of history there, 8 stories. And when we got that facility, it was literally burned out. So the renovation happened floor by floor to what you have today. That's our headquarters, but we have other property.
And that's what I wanted to talk about, because when you talk about COTS, you know, the first time that I came down, donated some clothes, you know, whatever, that's what I thought that it was. As a matter of fact, I was in there with Frankie, and that's when I came in to, you know, to interview for being on the committee for leading ladies, and we'll talk about that in a minute, because we have some events that are coming up. But, you know, there's a wall, and she was showing me the different locations and the different things that you do. So let's talk a little bit about some of your other locations and what the dynamics of, you know, what you guys are doing in those different locations.
So at our headquarters, we have 140 beds for men, women, and children, and we'll talk a little bit about how that's going to be transitioning later on. But we also realize that some people are homeless and need additional support, right? So there is what we call transitional services, where people move. If you're single, we have a site there at 26 Peterborough, but we have other sites, Peggy's Place, which is one of my favorite places, over by Mary Grove College. We also have 23 scattered units for women who are survivors of domestic violence. And we all know, especially in the city of Detroit and Wayne County, there is a huge need for housing and services for those survivors. And then we have other housing. We have COTS on the Boulevard, another building for families that are in transition. And so but the major part of what COTS does is permanent supportive housing. So sometimes you look at the name COTS, people automatically think temporary. But permanent housing for us becomes the, if you want to look at it, at closing that back door. So there are some people who are going to need support services for the rest of their lives. Normally people with mental health challenges, some physical challenges, and what they need, you know, those are the people that have been chronic, in and out of homelessness, because they didn't have the supportive services, the coaching, the mentoring to help them remain stably housed. So we have over 250 units of those, ours that we actually own and have built and then scattered throughout Wayne County.
See, now I wonder how many people, you know, just don't know that. And then the other thing, you know, and I don't want to go from, you know, because that's awesome, all the things that you're doing. But as I go back into that interview, you know, with Frankie, and she takes me into is it Bright Beginning?
Yes. That's my favorite place.
Okay, so I you know, I go through the kitchen where you know, we feed, and then she walks me over, and you know, she taps lightly on the door. I don't know what to expect. You know, I'm in a homeless shelter, and I walk behind this door, and then there's soft music playing, and there may be like 5 little babies that are sitting, and their little swings are, you know, kind of rocking, and they're asleep. And then there's a lady, you know, and I don't know her name, but I saw her when I came to Fed. I was like, you're the lady that was holding the baby. You know, she's holding the baby, but they're all quiet. And then there are other babies that are in their cribs, and the lady, and they're loving on these babies. And I'm thinking, like, how do they get them all to be quiet at the same time? But I do know one thing, that I felt the peace and the love.
So they're working their gift.
Exactly.
Everybody has the gift. That's their gift.
Exactly. As I walked in that room, it just consumed me to tears. I mean, actually, tears were running down my face. And I'm thinking, wow, this is awesome. So who's able to, I mean, because you're not just watching the homeless children that are there, you still provide a need for working people in the area. Right?
Absolutely. So when people look at homelessness, they're, you know, at the core is poverty, right? So the core is poverty. People are poor. And we oftentimes, you know, focus at one aspect of it, but we can ever focus on the fact that poverty exists in our city to an extent that is just ridiculous, and begin to address all the issues, because it's very complex. So when you look at a poor person that comes into COTS, so you may have some physical disability, because you aren't focusing on your health. You aren't focusing on the kids' education, because you are poor and you don't have a roof over your head. And so what we do is we start to look at what types of services are needed while you are here. So we want people to first be safe. We want them to be well fed. And because they come with children, you cannot take care of your business. You cannot go looking for housing. You cannot really work if you have children and you don't have a place where they can be cared for. So Bright Beginnings was created as a result of one of our board members saying, what about the children? I remember in the board meeting, he said, what about the children? And we began to watch and saw that there was a growing number of children coming into COTS. So what do we do about it? And so from that, the Illages and Mitch Album and some others, the Carol's Foundation, came together, and many donors to help us create this safe, and it is a great place.
It is.
Bright Beginnings, and then we have another daycare for children 2.5 to 6 over at Peggy's place.
Okay, and I know I was just at an event earlier in Grosse Pointe where the Sarnics, is that Dr. and Mrs. Sarnic, they're starting an endowment, you know,
that is great for us to have people who really understand those dynamics. And if you listen to Dr. Sarnic, you'll hear his story of living in poverty himself, and in how do you raise yourself up, but also with support, because it's not all about pulling your own bootstraps.
Right, exactly. And when I heard that story where he talked about, I don't know if it was 15, 11 families all in one little place, but they all took care of each other. They all looked out for each other. They didn't just get ahead and then just leave everybody else in poverty. They made sure, and that's what we lack. You know, that's what we lack, and especially as African American people, if I could just say that we lack helping one another. You know, I think that you're competition to me when really you're collaboration.
That's right.
You know, you are somebody that I need to speak to, you know, I need to listen to, you know, because I see your successes that I want to know how to be successful. Your audience may not be my audience, you know, so there's enough to go around. I can learn from you. I don't have to be intimidated by you, afraid of you, you know. My arms are wrapped, you know, around you. I'm supporting you, you support me. There may be
we go up together. That's how you look at it. We go up together.
Most definitely. So, you know, I know that there's the endowment. I know that Leading Ladies, we're putting on an event the 14th and the 18th,
yep.
is it? And one is a breakfast and one is more like hors d'oeuvres.
Yeah, kind of a reception.
And I'm really excited about the vision boards, you know, just seeing how, you know, that is going to operate. Now, let's talk about what that fundraiser is for.
So Leading Ladies started I think it's 4 or 5 years ago with Yvette Bing, who was the Honorable Bing's wife, who is, and she had just a thought about how do we do something with COTS. And so we worked with her to do the breakfast. It started out with 100 women, and it's been growing since then. Actually, it was a luncheon, and it's just an amazing time. You know, something about the power of women, period, that when we come together and we can do amazing things, right? So it started from there, and so now we have this great dynamic breakfast every year, and it's a good hour and a half where women come together. We focus on a very specific topic for the event, and this year it's around our transition to families. So we're really looking at hosting about 300 women and having a lot of fun.
I'm excited about it, you know, empowering and vision, you know, to enlighten, you know, one another on the things, the power of women. That's awesome. I have a nonprofit. I say it all the time, Women Empowered Crossing Paths.
That's right.
When our paths cross, when we lock arms, you know, there are some things I may not be able to do by myself, but when my sister is behind me, you know, if I have somebody that I know that supports me, then I'm courageous. You know, I have more courage than I do, you know, on my own. And so that's something that we all definitely need to do. And so when you talk about changing the dynamics of COTS, you're looking to just specifically be for family.
So and sometimes when I say that, I'm very careful about it because we have several different tiers of housing, the shelter, transitional, permanent housing, and right now our focus is transitioning the emergency shelter. So in January of 2015, we'll be transitioning to families. And here's why, because you always believe, you know, when people say, well, people are homeless. So if you have resources of that much and you have a need like this, my response is always, where can I have the greatest impact? Where can I have the greatest impact? And here's what I believe. With our families, and not just for right now, our focus is on the next generation. The sad thing about poverty in our community is the fact that pretty much guaranteed, if you're poor today and you don't have the support or people with expectations in your home, that child is going to be in poverty. The next generation, they're going to raise kids in poverty, and we continue this vicious cycle, which I believe there is a solution for every problem. A friend of mine says, we are a yes organization. I believe, yes, we can address it. And it's not just COTS, but how do we collaborate with others? So what we do very well is we get people housed. We do that well. So if I can do this, and we're focusing on 4 other tenets, education, health and well-being, being healthy, not employment, but career development. And then how do we engage ourselves in the community and in education? Those we believe are the 5 core tenets for how we move ourselves out of poverty, and that when a child sees a mom, and you hear me say mom because most of our families are headed by a single mom, So when mom is going to school, mom is focused on her health and her well-being.
Mom feels good about mom. The children see mom feeling good.
She sets an expectation. The kids see it, and they repeat. We repeat what we see. And so we believe that with that culture, that way of thinking, that if we as an organization will embrace that, and we are embracing that, then and working with others, that we can, down the road, when that same child who is 5 is 18, their conversation is very different.
Most definitely. That's really, really good. And I know you have a lot of people that are behind you, that support you, that collaborate with COTS. COTS is definitely a great organization.
It is a great place. I love it.
It is over
24 years strong for me. I love it.
I know you've been there for a while. So let's talk a little bit about Shayro. Cheryl Johnson. And tell me this, because I have my idea about why they call you Cheryl, but tell me where it came from.
It's just a nickname. It was my nickname when I came to COTS, you know, in college, you know, you grow up, and everybody has a nickname. They might call you Barb, I don't know. It's whatever. Yeah, yes. It's a nickname. And when I became the CEO, I had to, you know, my name is Cheryl, and I had to write my name as Cheryl. There's a legal documents that I signed. So I said, let me just keep the Cheryl. And as my mother, who's 85 today, would tell you, I named you Cheryl.
Okay, so, that's your name.
But people, my friends call me Cheryl. I answer to both.
But see, and when I you know, I heard Frankie say Cheryl, you know, and I was there yesterday. Young lady said Cheryl, and then when I met you, and when I walked away, I said, oh, that's my Shero. So I'm thinking that you know, maybe that's not where the name came from. Well, hey, it's a good thing.
It's a good thing.
It's a real good thing. So you've been with COTS for 24 years.
24 years.
What were you doing before you?
So before that, I was working. So I've always been in the helping field. Okay. So as a child, I remember volunteering, getting up every Saturday to work with children. Mom and Dad didn't have to wake me up. It was just so that's my gifting, and that's what was put in my heart. And so I've worked with teenagers. I've done that for a number of years, 10 years before I came to COTS. Okay. And so I came to COTS, and I never worked with homeless people, but my intent was to be there 2 years and go back to working with teens. And the rest is history.
Right. And I know how that is. After 36 years at AT&T Michigan Bell SBC, you know, whatever. I'm only going to be here for a little while, you know, because I had something else to do.
And it's good. It's you know, God has, to me, he purposes us, and he puts things in our hearts that even though we aren't aware that, okay, here is where he's leading me. Once you get in it, you get it. Like,
you in it.
Okay, here I am.
So now I know that one of the things that they shared with me is that, like, you took, is it 7 women up under you, or a few women, and you kind of do some coaching? You are a life coach?
So this started a few years ago. I was really blessed to get funded through McGregor Fund, who was a major foundation in our city doing some good work and support. They allowed me to go away for 1.5 years on sabbatical. And it was the most amazing opportunity that really set in motion my coaching. So, you know, I've been coaching people for years, but not calling it coaching, right? You just supporting, and you see it, but you don't call it. So I actually went away and became certified as an integral life coach. And so aside from COTS, I have my own client base where I work primarily with women, but with people around helping them to, one, see the vision, address particular issues in their lives, and helping them to create a pathway to whatever the next narrative is that they want to create. So I wanted to do this for women who couldn't afford to pay what the clients pay, right? So, and I really believe coaching is a tool that everybody should get a coach. It is. It's just everybody. I have a coach. A coach needs a coach, and honestly, so I decided to, how do I offer this to women who are living in some of our programs? That turned out to be one of, to this day, the most amazing experience that I have had in my life to work with women. So you think, like, okay, these are poor women with all kinds of issues, but at their heart, they really want to be the best that they can be, not only for themselves, but for their kids. That was just like, wow.
Who wakes up in the morning and say, you don't want to be a bad mother? Who wakes up and say, I want to be homeless? I want to do this, you know? And I know for a fact, you know, from all the things that I've been through in my life, all I've ever wanted to do was be the best person that I could be, you know, and to love people, have people to love me in return, for that to be reciprocal, and just to do good. You know? So you know, I'm grateful. One thing I want to do is I want to give out for you to give out COTS number. If somebody is experiencing some homelessness, they need to talk to somebody about how to, you know, transition. Give us your number.
So our number is 313-831-3777, and we have a website, COTS, C-O-T-S, Detroit. So that's one word, cotsdetroit.org.
Right. And then the next thing that I want you to do, because, you know, a half hour is never enough time. We're definitely going to have to, you know, do some follow-up, you know, to sit down and talk about some other things. But there's somebody out there, somebody's going through something, somebody, you know, just don't know how they can make it through. I don't know what their dream is, what their situation is, but I just want you to look into the camera and encourage somebody today.
So my, I think what is just on my heart, and this is something that I've been really focusing on and sharing, is to understand our gifts and our purposes, that God has always placed a specific purpose for you in mind. And even though we may not understand what that purpose is, believe it or not, that if we really focus, and I believe there are a couple of things that we can do, is dig into the Word, pray, and spend time in silence, that God does speak. So people often say, well, what does he sound like? I cannot even tell you, you know, that audible voice. But God speaks to us through our passion. He speaks to us through other people, but every time you wake up in the morning, he is saying something to you. The thing is, we've gotten so busy with all the other stuff and even our own doubts that we can't hear God speak. Listen, God is speaking and he is directing, and there is a next step for you.
Well, I thank you for that. I thank you. I'm looking forward to you and I sitting together October and doing some coaching.
Absolutely.
I definitely need a coach, and I think I've stumbled upon a great, you know, just a great opportunity. I thank God for the day that our paths crossed. I remember you and I sitting in a meeting together. I said, what is this meeting about? And we both said we didn't know. But just as you just spoke, you know, about when God has something for you, that person that you're to meet, that opportunity, you know, he's going to always make room for you and your gifts, you know. So I thank you for coming out and taking the time and sitting here with me and just sharing your wisdom, your knowledge. You know, if anybody out there is experiencing homelessness, there is help, you know, and I know that there is probably an overcrowded situation, but you know that people can talk you through what it is that you need to do. And I think that, you know, going to the next level, as you transition to go to the next level, maybe the churches will hear us and they will put some shelters around to help. You know, all the things that you do. So I'm going to have to end the show, you know, the way that I always do. Thanking my audience, my viewing audience, and hopefully, you know, we share some information with you that will be a blessing to you. And I'm going to tell you, from my beating heart to your beating heart, I love you. You understand? Okay.